This week we're going to tie Kelly Gallup's Laser Legal. We're going to do the multi-cam on this one. We're also going to do a different color combination. This is one that I've started tying and fishing a decent amount. It's really gaining in popularity with me. Probably the most tied and fished one would be the rainbow, the juvenile rainbow version. That's probably the one that I tie and fish the most. Followed by the brown trout. I thought I had one. No, I thought I had one over there. I didn't. Followed by the brown trout, and then this one. But this one's quickly climbing up the ranks. It's a producer, and it imitates a lot of, like, if you've got shad or anything like that in your water system, this would be a great imitation for that. I also started tying this in a little bit of a dace color combination. I haven't quite gotten that one dialed in yet, and I don't really like it too awful much, but that would be killer for the folks back in the Appalachians, you know, back in Pennsylvania, where my uncles are just deadly with dace minnows. This would be a great color combination for that, but I haven't quite gotten that one dialed in yet. So, no more rambling, on to the tying on this one. To start, we've got an MFC 7050 size 4 for our back hook. I don't like it. Damn wiggle I got there for some reason. I don't know when that started. So we're just going to get a thread base down here, starting at the front, going all the way back to the barb of our hook. And we'll take that. That's a little bit tight right there. Loosen that up one notch. There we go. And we'll just get that tied into place. I'm going to go into, I'm just going to pick all of these out right now actually. I'm just going to get all of my Marabou picked out on. So I'm going to wind up with 6 plumes of Marabou for the white on this one. There's 4. And there's something a little bit thicker. I think we can use that one. I'm going to set that off to the side. What I'm doing right now is I'm just picking my Marabou sections out. I want to progress from the thinnest to the thickest as I move forward, or as I move forward on the fly on this one. Starting out with the thinnest toward the tail, and then that way it's going to generate a little bit of a taper for you. You don't want to go mix and matching your Marabou. It'll wind up looking a little bit bumpy. You can, by all means, don't get me wrong, it's not going to make or break the fly, but your transition will look a little bit better if you use a progression on the thickness of your material. And then before I start tying this one the rest of the way, we're going to mix our color combination. This is just a gray and black that we're going to mix together. I really like the way that this looks. Probably 75% gray, 25 black, maybe 80-20, somewhere about that. Let me get a little bit more black. But I'm just going to mix these together. I do this a lot for the heads on my rainbow riffles. In the gray and white color combination, I just think it's a really good look. I like the way that it kind of breaks some color up and everything, and there's almost like a par mark effect, if you want to put it that way. I just like the breakup that you get on this, and you can see, I mean, I'm not really mixing that too awful well. I'm just kind of putting this in my hand here, and I just have this, I'm just mixing the 2 colors in, and that's what I'm going to wind up with. And as I go through selecting this, I'm going to try and find some pieces with the heavier black and everything, and then get the mix that I want from there. So to start on this one, I'm going to find a good sparse piece. This one looks pretty good right here. I'm going to start with a sparse white Marabou plume to start on my tail. And we'll just trim that out, set that off to the side. That's good for a brush. Go ahead and wet that, makes it a little bit easier to work with. And then we're just going to measure that out, the length of our hook. And we've got 2 tight wraps, or 2 secure wraps. And then let that go, and then I'm going to take this to about my halfway point on the hook. I'm going to take it to the halfway point. I'm going to trim that, trim that off. Set that in place, and then I'm going to go. I kind of like that. There's not a ton of black in this one. You'll probably notice I'm going to get a little picky on this as I'm going through it. It's not like I'm going to be picky, so bear with me. It doesn't happen too often. I can't say that with a straight face. So I'm just going to tie this in, get that secure, and then I'm just going to work that back just slightly to where it's going to lengthen out to about the length of my tail. That's pretty close right there as we have it. And then I'm going to advance forward just a few turns. I'm going to make a dubbing loop, and I'm going to grab my tool here, set that off, and then I'm going to half hitch, and then we're going to get some UV ice dub in pearl. And I want just enough to get me to my halfway point there. I'm not worrying too awful much about a taper or anything. I just want some fill in between the stacks. So we're going to have it sitting right like that. Spin this up. Obviously, like I said, I'm not worrying too much about the taper, but I don't want bumps or anything throughout this. So I'm going to be mindful not to create any bumps. And then I'm just going to take this through, getting just about to my halfway point. It might be a little bit short. I think I might live with it though. I think I might live with it. Let me see. Yeah, that'll be fine. I'll live with that. So there we have that, just about to our halfway point. Now I'm going to go with my next plume of Marabou. Remember, we're going thicker as we progress. So, take this white, and I'm going to measure this out about to the halfway point on my last stack. Have that up against the gray for reference, and I'm just going to rotate that down to the bottom. Go 1, 2, get that secure, and get some just cover wraps over top of that. And I'm going to work that Marabou on the bottom. Up close to the front. Peel that stuff back. Now you notice I'm not trimming this laser dub just yet. I'm going to let that go until we get to the end of this fly, and then I'll trim it from there. Once again, we're just grabbing another stack of laser dub, and the same with your Marabou. You're going to progress. You're going to get a little bit thicker as you go forward. You're going to grab just a little bit extra material. There we go. We've got that running right into the back. Once again, we're going to form our dubbing loop here. And I'm going to take that to the front, grab the tool. Still got the last piece of thread on there. And then we'll go ahead and half hitch this once again. We're we're just going to take this right to the front. I'm going to grab a little bit extra dubbing this time. I was borderline too short, so I'm going to grab some extra. There we go, that looks better. And we're just going to take and spin this up once again. Much better. It's probably a little bit too much, but it's better to have too much than not enough. So then on that first wrap, make sure that you're not capturing any of that laser dub, and then make sure you have good clean coverage on your bottom side there, on your bottom section. And then just work that right to the front. I'm going to leave a little bit more because we still have one more stack on this back hook to get. There we go. Everything's looking pretty good. Alright, once again, progressing as we go forward on this. Those are going to be two good ones for the side there. We want something just a little bit thicker than the last piece. So then, we're going to grab some more Marabou. Once again, for reference, we're just going to take this about halfway back our last stack of laser dub as it sits right there. Spin this around. And get that nice and secure right in front of the eye of our hook. Spin that up, get that trimmed, and then just a few wraps to clean that head up slightly. You can see we have nice transition all the way through there on our Marabou. We're gaining in thickness as we go. Same thing with the laser dub on the last stack. We're grabbing just a little bit extra. That might be a little bit too much right there. I want just a little bit more than what I had on the last one. Just even that stuff out. Make sure you're tying a nice good bundle in there. Bend it around your thread. Get that set into place. It's going right down the center of your hook. 1, 2. Really pull down on that. And what that's going to do is sink that laser dub into the body, or into the body of your hook. And it's not going to rotate or go one way or another on you. So now we'll just take and whip finish, and our back section's done. Get that out of the way. Now I'm going to take some 19 strand Beadalon. We're still not cutting that laser dub just yet. We're going to let it sit. We've got our 19 strand Beadalon. And then get over here. I'm going to take one red bead on this. You can go without a bead if you want. I like having the bead on there for some reason, so I just tend to tie with them. But by all means, you can omit that step if you want. Now we're going to go to a Gami B10S size 6. Let me get that in there a little bit. And then this is a 3/16 tungsten bead on the front there. Let me get this stuff out of the way. Let me get that stuff out of the way. Before I go forward on this, I'm just going to take some 15 thousandths lead wire, probably about, I don't know, 5 to 7 wraps, somewhere about that, and I'm just going to throw these on there. As always, it's not for the extra weight. I just want to secure that bead up right there. So I'm just going to take this, touch that up right in the front with a little bit of glue. Throw some zap on that, and then force this into the opening on that bead. That's going to secure this up a little bit more for me. And keep that from running all over the place. Just 15 thousandths, that's all I needed. Just to get that a little more secure. It's not going to go running back the hook on me. And it just makes it a little bit easier to work with. So now we're just building our thread base, and I'm going back to about the point of the hook on this one. I'm not going all the way back to the barb because it starts that descent on the back. That'll wind up throwing your articulation off a little bit if you go all the way down to the barb on this. So now we're just going to get that parallel, get that nice and have our wires running parallel. We have everything sitting how we want them. I'm getting a few loose wraps on there, and as you can see, that's way too much on the connection distance. I want to bring that down just about the width of that bead, a little bit shorter, if anything. And you can see we have that in place. Everything looks pretty good. It's running. It's not kicked off to one side or the other, so we're in good shape as far as that's concerned. And then I'm just going to run this up to my bead. I'm going to stop just shy of it, and I'm going to double these wires over. You don't have to double these over, it's just a habit for me. I do on every single fly I articulate. So that's just my habit. You do not have to double that up if you don't want. Now I'm going to go ahead and trim that. It's going to be right at about my halfway point. Now this is the only real difference here. I'm not going to use one Marabou plume. I'm going to go with two of them, and they're going to be a little on the sparse side because I'm going to have one on my side here and then one on the opposite side. That's going to be my skirt. That's going to be my cover for this one. Yeah, that'll make a brush. So these ones are going to be just a little bit more sparse, and I want them running into, same as before, the halfway point on the last feather, and just get a couple of loose wraps, work that to the midway point on your hook, and then come on back to the point. Everything looks about where we want it there. And then the same thing on this one. I'm going to take this Marabou and I'm going to work this on the opposite side. Because these are both sparse pieces, it's going to wind up filling that skirt section out, and it's going to follow along with the proportions that we're working going to the front. Man, we've got some crazy wind out there today. Crazy wind out there. Alright, now we're going to take that to our midway point. I'm going to take and trim that off. You can see our skirt section's covering up nicely. We've got a nice little transition there. And then we're going to go back to our laser dub, taking just slightly more than we used on the last one. There's a little bit of black in there, which I like. Just a little streak of black through there. Go get that nice and evened up. Once again, I'm just going to set that in right where I want it, right on the top of the hook there. 1, 2, pull down tight. Everything's good. I'm just going to make a couple of wraps to clean that section up a little bit, and then work that right to the back, and then stop at my halfway point. Back to our dubbed body here. We got a half hitch, get that in the cradle. And then back to our dubbing. Get that in our loop. And if you wanted to, you could do like a petite estase, or even just throw this on there by hand, just twist it around. I don't really like ice dub twisted around, you know, the noodle style, I guess you could call it. I don't really like it that way. These fibers are a little bit longer and it doesn't really lend to that twisting style, so I prefer them in the dubbing loop. It just makes such a clean body, in my opinion. You're able to pick these fibers out a lot more. It's not segmented. It just looks better to me, so that's why I go with that style, or that technique of putting on that dubbing. Alright. I'm going to work that back to my halfway point. I'm going to grab my thickest Marabou here. And this one's just a little bit webbier. I'm not necessarily using more material, it's just a webbier piece. So now I get that set in. It's just about halfway on the measurement from our last section that we tied in. I'm going to get 1, 2 loose wraps in there. Make sure that I'm not overtaking that skirt section. It's a little on the long side, so I'm just going to pull that just slightly. They're not finding out who I'm voting for. Been getting calls left and right on that nonsense. There we go. Now just get that to where we left off, right at our halfway point on that gami. One more time. Well, we've got 2 more on this actually. But once again, I'm finding a section that I like here with these colors. It's got just a little streak of black in there. Even that out really nice. And then just cup that, get it going right down the center of your hook too, and then really wrench down on that, tighten that up really good. And then we're gonna go back to a half hitch for the last time on this fly. Well, no, I can't say that. I'm gonna do one at the front too. I'm gonna do one at the front, just to clean things up slightly. Get that in the cradle, and then we're gonna go back to our ice dub here. I've probably got enough on my pant leg to where I could finish this body out, but there we go. Couple of strands of Marabou trapped on that one. Same thing as before, we're just going right through here, making sure not to trap our laser dub, taking that right up to our bead. Right to the bead. So we've got our body filled out there really nice, everything's looking pretty good. It'd be nice to block some of that light there, get a better look at it. It's just a little bit blurred there on that back camera, but I think it's still going to come through pretty good. So now we're done with the Marabou on the front section on this one. What we're gonna take now is a piece of white laser dub, and I want this to be about the same thickness as I'm gonna use for my top portion. We're gonna take this laser dub and put this on the bottom section right in front of this eye. So we're just gonna, or right in front of that bead. So I'm just gonna cup that there, and I'm gonna go 1, 2, pull down tight, and then I want to turn this around, and I'm just pushing my blade right through this. I'm not really making an even cut. I'm just kind of pushing my scissors right through that, and then it's gonna line up almost at the halfway point. I have it slightly longer. I can trim some of that in a little, well, I don't know. I'm looking at it now and I'm like, I just better trim it. So there we go. We're running about halfway back our last plume of Marabou as it sits right there. And then I want one more section of black, or one more section of gray and black on the top. And for this, I want to add just a good streak of black. I want a nice good streak right in the front. So I'm going to add some to that. There we go. I'm not mixing that in real well. I want that black to be a little bit more prominent. And once again, we're setting that right in front of our bead. 1, 2, pull down tight. And then we have that right up against our bead section right there. Now, I am going to put a little lateral line on both of these, and I'm going to mix this between a black. I like this black here. I used to do them just straight black, but then I started adding just a little bit. That should do right there. Just a little bit of lavender to these sides. It just kind of pops a little bit. I don't put a ton of lavender in here, just a touch. And I just mix this up real quick. About 3 to 4 turns through there. It's just going to be a nice little lateral line on the side. It's a little bit thick, so I'm going to peel some of that stuff out. That's looking pretty good. So now I'm going to set this on its side here so I can get that lateral line going right down the middle. And I'm going to go 1, 2, pull down tight, sink that into the body of my hook, and you can see that lateral line running right down through there. Gives it a really neat effect. I'll probably trim some of that out after I'm done filming. And then I want just a little bit of lavender on this one as well. Not a ton, just enough to give it a little bit of extra color to it. Kind of tones that black down slightly. There's some neat colors in that black laser dub as well. There's like some blues and purple hazes to it. Or purple tints to it, I guess I should say. Same thing, lateral line on that side. 1, 2, pull down tight, get that laser dub going into your body. Make sure that those are running laterally still. Everything's looking good for us. And then the last thing that I'm going to do on this before I trim the thread and cut everything is I'm going to put just a little bit, and you can get away with not doing it on this, honestly, but I want to put just a little bit of ice dub between the bead and my laser dub. And it's just going to be the thinnest piece that I can put on there and still have it fill in just this slight gap. I mean, the camera's probably not even going to pick it up. There is just the slightest of gaps in there that my OCD will not allow. So once again, I'm just throwing this ice dub in there. I'm going to take a quick spin with this. Shift that up to the front. Get that a little tighter. There we go. And then it's just 1, 2, right in front of that. And then what that does too is it just adds a little bit of extra flash going back into the collar on this, or into your lateral lines. You can hardly even notice it's there until that sun hits it, and it really pops. So then we're going to take 1, 2, 3, whip finish, and we are clear on this one. We can go ahead and cut our thread. I thought I had a brush over here somewhere. There we go. I'll just take a comb. Just gonna kind of pick all of this stuff up. Like I said, I'm probably gonna cut some of that cheek out of there, some of that lateral line on that side. May have gotten just slightly heavy, but I'll do that after the camera's off. So then all I want to do on this is just have this stuff standing up like this, and I'm just giving this a slight trim all the way around here. Just a slight trim. You can see how that has that, it's just kind of like an arc that I have trimmed in that, and as that sits back, it's just going to go one segment into the next. It has a really neat look in the water. Really projects a great profile. This is an all-around just phenomenal pattern. Trout, bass, whatever it may be, this thing just flat out catches fish. We'll give this a spin here on this side. Like I said, that one cheek's going to wind up coming out a little bit. Now I'm going to take this out of the vise and hold this up against a better background so you can see the fly a little bit better. There we go. We've got it against that background. Kind of has that neat little segmented effect on the back, and then the body's pretty well consistent with just the white on it. But that is Cali Gallup's Laser Legal in the olive black, or not olive, gray, black, and white. If you guys have questions or comments on them, leave them with me and I'll get back to you. But thanks as always for watching, and we'll catch you next Wednesday.